Hello, it's Josh Bow from Pod Maverick and MavsMoneyball.com. I am talking into the void. I am talking into the ether. For those of you that are actually listening, this will be a relic of podcast audio because let's be real. This is how it works. When the Mavericks are bad, when the Mavericks are good, you guys listen and you tune in, whether it's live, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on your audio feeds. When they're bad, you guys don't read the site as moneyball.com, which I am a co-editor with Kirk Henderson. You guys don't listen to the podcast, which I don't blame y'all. You know, why would you waste any more time when a team is bad? And this is, even when the team is good, when they lose, no one usually reads or listens because no one wants to focus any more attention on a crappy game that the Mavericks don't win. So when a team is bad, which the Mavericks are, and they lose to a bad team on a Saturday afternoon during a holiday weekend, although today's not a holiday, but we're 2 days after Christmas, we're a few days before New Year's, everyone's pretty much off work, out of school. I suspect there will be like 15 people that listen to this podcast. I know it says our live stats say that there are 6 people on YouTube and almost about 100 people on Twitter. I'm sure most of those people on Twitter are bots. So for those of you that are listening to this, more power to you. This is a long way of me saying that. It's just me. Kirk is traveling for the holidays. I believe this will be the last game for Kirk. He will be back in town tomorrow, and then I think we'll both be on the podcast for Monday, and then even on New Year's Day, 7:30. I believe we'll be back. So me and Kirk should be back to recording. I know we haven't really talked a lot. Pierce Sears in the chat says, "Buddy, this was a tough game to watch." Yeah, tough game to watch, and now I have to talk about it. I haven't even said the score. The Mavericks lost to the Sacramento Kings 113-107 at a despicable, awful, horrible loss. The Mavericks are bad. I apologize to everyone for saying the Mavericks were good. I believe after the Mavericks beat the Eastern Conference leading Detroit Pistons in overtime on December 18th, I said there's just nothing else to say. The Mavericks are a good team now. This is just who they are. We'll see if they can make up the gap, but I said they were a good team. Since then, they have lost 4 out of 5. 2 of those losses have been to the Pelicans and the Kings, who are 2 of the worst teams in the NBA. Another one of those losses was to the Golden State Warriors, who are another team struggling to be near 500, another play-in team. So they lost to 2 teams out of the play-in. They lost to a play-in team, and then the 76ers are actually pretty good. Of course, they sandwich those losses with 1 win, and it's the Denver Nuggets, because this Mavericks team is just bizarre. But at this point, they are 12-21. The writing is on the wall. Anthony Davis is hurt again. This is not a good team. They are not going to make the playoffs. They might make the play-in. At this point now, the play-in is becoming, with every loss, it's going to become harder for them. They're only a game out of 10th for the play-in, so they might still make 10th. We'll see. But they're not, they won't win it. They won't make it to the playoffs. They won't make it to the 8th seed. This was a disappointing game for the Mavericks in a variety of ways. The Kings were not good, and the Kings also just didn't even have a lot of their guys. They didn't have Sabonis. They didn't have Zach LaVine, who I guess you could say that might be a good thing. It was just a bad game all the way around. So I didn't want to bring it, Kirk's out. I didn't want to bring in one of our staffers to watch because quite frankly, I don't even know how many of our guys are watching. We've got Brian on recap from MavsMoneyball.com. We've got Joe for stats, but I don't want to force anyone else to watch that doesn't need to watch this because this was an awful game. No one needs to come up and talk about it. So I'm not going to talk for too long. I'm going to try to get out of here in maybe under 20 minutes because I don't think this game deserves any more than that. The Mavericks started off the game actually okay. I think they got off to a 7-3 lead, and then from there it was just all Sacramento. Sacramento took a 10-9. Took a 10-9 lead in the first quarter, and they led for the entirety of the game after that. They led by as many as 18. They had a double-digit lead in the first quarter, which they maintained through most of the first half. The Mavericks made a run in the third quarter behind a Cooper Flag explosion where he had 14 points in the third quarter. And then they had another run toward the end of the game where they ended up making it a clutch game because this is the Mavericks and they have to play a clutch game. But the Mavericks never had in the clutch. They never had the ball with a chance to take the lead. They got down to 4, they got down to 5, but they never had the ball. They never had possession with a chance to tie or take the lead. So this was kind of not a fake comeback, but the Mavericks never really threatened to win this game. The Kings did everything they could to try to lose it toward the end. They made some pretty funny mistakes, throwing away some possessions, calling timeouts when they didn't need to. But yeah, I mean, the Kings jumped on the Mavericks and the Mavericks couldn't respond. I mean, for this Kings team, this version of the Kings to jump on the Mavericks, it was disheartening. The Mavericks somehow maintained their streak of, not getting blown out. This was still a competitive game. They still haven't really had a blowout loss since November 22nd. So they're going on over a month. This was looking like a blowout, and boy, this would have been a weird game to get blown out, considering all the good teams they've played in the last 3 weeks. So I guess you could respect them for keeping it close, but also, I mean, the way they started this game was unacceptable. You don't normally see the Mavericks come out of games as bad as they can be. They don't normally start out lifeless and not engaged, and that's kind of what they were. And then they played better in the second half in the fourth quarter, but there was just, the hole was just too big. Again, excuse me. The big thing here, we've talked about this with the Mavericks for a while. The 3 big things for this Mavs team. These are the 3 categories. You watch these categories every game. You look at them. If the Mavericks lose 2 out of these 3 categories, they usually lose the game. 3-point shooting, turnovers, offensive rebounds. The Mavericks did okay 3-point shooting, but the Kings made more. The Kings were 17 to 38. The Mavericks were 13 to 27, which is actually 48%. Not bad. But the Kings made 4 more threes. I think the volume matters more than the efficiency. So they lost the 3-point line. Offensive rebounds, Kings had 14. The Mavericks had 11. So the Mavericks lost that, although a little narrowly, not as bad. And then turnovers. 21 turnovers to the Mavericks. Kings scored 28 points off those turnovers. So they lose all 3 categories. They lose the game. That's the game. Doesn't matter that the Mavericks, shot well from, they shot efficiently from 3. Doesn't matter that they got to the free throw line more. You can't lose the possession game that bad. Losing the possession game with offensive rebounds, the Kings got more. Losing the possession battle with the turnovers, the Kings had literally half the turnovers. And then the math game, 3 is worth more than 2, and the Kings made more threes. Like you can't win NBA games when you lose those 3 categories. And the Mavericks, unfortunately, those are their 3 biggest deficiencies because they have no guard play. They have very inconsistent shooting. And with Anthony Davis and Derek Lively out for the season, Davis hurt, Gafford been hurt. Their rebounding is also a little suspect at times as well because their bigs just can't stay healthy. So honestly, that's all you need to know. They don't have 21 turnovers. They win this game. Pure and simple. If they have it closer to 15, 13, somewhere around there, they probably win. You can't win an NBA game with 21 turnovers. It's very hard to do. And then giving up 28 points off those turnovers because a lot of those turnovers were live ball turnovers. Kings had 11 fast break points, but they had a lot of secondary scoring as well. Where even if the Mavericks transition defense got back, the Kings were able to kind of use that movement to score and score often. So that's the game. Don't know really what else to say more than that. Cooper Flagg had a pretty bad first half. I think he only had 2 points and he had 14 points in the third. Hey, he had a bad game. It happens. And he's still, if Cooper Flagg's bad game is 23, 6 and 5, it's pretty good. 5 turnovers were rough. He didn't seem super engaged. Only had 13 shot attempts. Probably needed some more. Made 3 out of 4 threes, which was good. But again, it was a little too late for Cooper. The third quarter was awesome, but other than that, they needed just a little bit more. And then your vets needed to be a little bit better. Najee Marshall could have been a little better in his 26 minutes. Daniel Gafford was okay, but defensively was a train wreck. PJ Washington was good late to make it close. Max Christie was pretty rough. 3 of 12 from the floor, 9 points. Ryan Nembhard, good offensive game. Shooting the ball, 4 of 8 from the field, 9 points, which is like okay, but his defense, the Mavericks are just stretching the limit now of what they could do without like capable guard play. Nembhard has been awesome for who he is, but he's still a sub 6 foot rookie undrafted guard. It is hard. It is hard to put together a quality NBA defense when you're working with that limitation. His offense has still been needed. It's not that they shouldn't play him. I'm not trying to be like, they need a bench around him, or no, they should keep starting him. They should keep playing him. It's just hard. It's hard. You're going to have nights like this. The Kings backcourt with Westbrook, with Keon Ellis, DeMar DeRozan, even Dennis Schroeder, Malik Monk. The Kings just had way more size and experience in their backcourt and talent. And it just made a difference all night. The Mavericks were able to stay in this game because their bench, they kind of can still throw quality players. Like Dwight Powell can come off the bench with Anthony in his first game playing with Anthony Davis hurt and have 11 rebounds in 19 minutes, which was funny. Najee Marshall, even though he didn't have a great game, still came off the bench to have 11 points on 9 shots. Klay Thompson made 4 threes in 25 minutes off the bench. Like, the Mavericks could throw just enough quality players that, like, the Kings kept giving the game back up because the Kings were playing guys like Dylan Cardwell and Nick Clifford. These guys aren't bad. Like, Nick Clifford had some moments, made a big 3 in the fourth, but he was still, 20 minutes, 8 points, 3 of 10. Doug McDermott played more minutes in this game than he'd played all season. He had 9 points in 19 minutes. He was 3 of 6, but like, he wasn't good defensive. Like, the Kings were playing some, like Dylan Cardwell. Like, they were playing some guys that the Mavericks had more. The Mavericks are a deeper team. But the problem was when they needed it, their starting 5 got worked by the Kings starting 5, and it didn't matter. The depth could make up the difference. And the Mavericks lost the game. Not really sure what to say other than that. Ash Boing Lol. I'll just go read through some chat. She made a donation, so I'll read you here. Josh, would you trade Klay and Najee for Ivy? That's a no-brainer. That's an absolute no-brainer. I don't think Detroit would do that, but yeah, absolutely, that's a trade the Mavericks should do. It's time. They got to trade Anthony Davis. They need to try to trade Klay. They need to try to trade Najee. They need to try to trade a lot of guys. They need to trade Gafford. It's time for them to turn the page and look forward to the Cooper Flag era. Anthony Davis hurt, might throw a wrench at that, but the reports are heating up that the Hawks and the Warriors are interested. There's some Hawks trades that are interesting. I think any Mavs fan, don't get your hopes up with what the trade return can be. I think it's more about just moving on than what you actually get back. It's about clearing the cap. It's about setting a direction for the franchise. Like, do not look at an Anthony Davis trade and be like, we need to get back what we lost with Luka, or they need to get back like 3 first-round picks and recoup all the picks that they sent out to build that 2024 finals team. Like, no, the goal of the Anthony Davis trade should be to trade Anthony Davis and move him to somewhere he wants to go, move him to a more competitive situation, and just get him off the team. And that's not because he's bad or he's a bad influence, but they need to move on. And it's hard to move on when you're paying a guy $50 million and he's due for an extension, and then that's going to be awkward. They just need to, much like the firing of Nico Harrison didn't necessarily change anything on how the team was put together, and it didn't really fix anything. They just need to mentally, like, and figuratively, like, just move the franchise forward. And they can only, they need to move on from the remnants of the Luka trade disaster and that team and move on to the next phase of team building. And like I said, it's less about, they need to get this back for Dave. They need to get a pick. They need to get a young player. They need to get, they need to get him. They need to move him before it becomes an issue where you're in an awkward stance of, you get to this summer and his cap, his hold on the team with his money prevents them from doing stuff they want to do. His contract negotiation for an extension on his next deal becomes awkward because the team clearly is trying to just get ahead of all that, reset the franchise, go forward. And then see what happens. Like that to me is the goal of the Anthony Davis trade, not necessarily a haul. It's more just, can you get him off the team? And again, not his fault. Absolutely not his fault. He doesn't really deserve to be the personification of that really awful trade by Nico Harrison. So move him on, which would be a good fresh start for him, because I don't think it's ever going to happen here. Like there's too many wounds. And then the team needs to move on as well. Like I said, the Mavericks are 12-21. They are a game back of 10th, but they are now 4 games back of 9th. I mean, there's just nothing. They are 5 games back of 8th. So we're starting to see the Mavericks are a good home team. They are 9-9 at home, which is not bad. They're 3-11 on the road. And if you remember this Mavericks schedule, I think of their first 20 games, like 14 of them were at home. The Mavericks schedule is starting to turn. They have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their last 7 games have been on the road. And 1, 2, 3, 4, all 5 of those road games were losses. They haven't won a road game since, funny enough, at Denver on December 1st. So they lost at Oklahoma City, at Utah, at Philly, at New Orleans, at Gold State, at Sacramento. And they go again on the road to Portland, a frisky team. And they play, handful more road games like this. The schedule is turning, and they were able to survive. The fact that it was such a red flag that the Mavericks started 5-15, which might have been like the softest schedule I have ever seen since I've been covering the Mavericks, in terms of opponents, in terms of travel, in terms of home games. Now they're supposed to dig out of this hole with the schedule getting harder. That's tough. So yeah, rough game for anyone who watched it. More power to you. I'm gonna leave it at that. I've talked for about 18 minutes. That's about as much as I can give. I'm going to get out of here. The Mavericks play Monday at Portland. Me, myself, and Kirk should both be back. Again, apologies for kind of these abbreviated podcasts lately and kind of the weird mix-up, with the holidays and both of us having, personal lives and this being our second job. We try to fit it in as best we can. So that's going to do it for me. Again, Kings beat the Mavericks in a very disheartening loss, 113-107. The Mavericks will play again Monday on the road at Portland. Myself and Kirk Henderson will be back for Josh Bowe, for Pod Maverick After Dark. Listen, subscribe, you sickos that want to stick around with us for the rest of the season. It'll super help. We love you. We'll talk to you guys later. See you Monday night after they play the Trailblazers.